Direct from the Six, world-renowned, Canada's largest city, with Canada's biggest thinkers, visionaries, and hustlers. This is Startup Talk, featuring the founders, funders, innovators, and community leaders who've led Canada's startup ecosystem right here in Toronto. You'll hear the challenges, the failures, the successes. Toronto's Startup Podcast gives you the full story direct from the entrepreneurs and influencers who've made a difference. Now, the host of Startup Talk, the founder of TorontoStarts, the Startup Coach.
And many entrepreneurs are navigating the challenges of bootstrapping their startups. What advice would you give founders trying to grow without outside funding?
I think the biggest one is to think about what is your, and I'm not going to call it a minimal viable product because I hate that term. What is the product that you can go to market with and sell straight away? So what is the smallest portion of the product? So for example, let's say you're trying to challenge the customer management or client management industry. And you want to build an amazing sales management tool. What you want to do first is figure out what is the smallest component I can build that people will want to buy. So let's say you build a component where every time somebody visits your website, you know who they are on LinkedIn, let's say. So you build this component. This component is not that complicated to build. You can build it with very little money, especially nowadays, and you can launch it and you can start to sell it. Let's say you're a business where you're offering a SaaS solution, and this is another common one these days. A lot of traditional services businesses are becoming SaaS businesses, especially now with AI. Fantastic. That means you could still go to market and begin to generate revenue by having a human layer, and you gradually over time remove that human layer. That's what we did. In 2015, 70% of our deliverable was a human layer. 30% technology, maybe even less. By 2022, it was less than 5% human, maybe even less than that. And so that transition allows you to build your SaaS platform and scale it and reimagine your service model along with it. So that's the biggest thing, because I have so many founders come to me because they think, they can fundraise, right? And obviously I have an investment company and I do invest in companies, but I invest in companies that have the same ethos that I have. I invest in founders that can do exactly what you just said, which is go sell and have that mentality. Because the moment you have that mentality, then I'm happy to invest to get you to the next stage. And so that's my biggest thing is until you've figured that out, don't start pitching people. Because if you do get money, they're going to take an arm and a leg. And I know so many founders, I'm sure as you do, that have had big exits and they make very little because over the process, they've given up so much of their company and so much of their sort of a soul through the experience of doing this, that it's not the same level of joy as having ownership and guide the ship yourself.
VC money is the most expensive money for people. They just don't realize it.
They don't realize it.
Yeah. And so it's not necessarily the way to go. And I like the term MVP because I think but I think it's focused more on building a demo for investors and for an audience. And I think the step beyond that is the MSP, the minimum sellable product, which is what you're talking about. Let's get this one thing I can sell and get it down. And I think they have two different targets. So, but that's just, my way I teach people the way to think about it. Where do people go to find out more?
You can go to Investment Arc, but Arc is spelled with a K. So investmentark.net. That's my investment company. So if you're a startup and you need some assistance, that's where to find me. And then, of course, my newsletter, Decision Lab. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. Please don't hesitate to connect with me. And again, Craig will have a link to my LinkedIn profile as well.
Yeah, and all that'll be there. And I'll throw a link to the newsletter in the chat on LinkedIn. I see a couple of people asking it in an hour or so after the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you all for the great questions. And thank you for the great interview.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been Startup Talk, Toronto's startup podcast. For more exclusive content, the episode vault, and to be part of TorontoStarts community, visit TorontoStarts.com. Get your name on the newsletter mailing list and check out our upcoming events. For more episodes, subscribe now. And please recognize the time and work behind the scenes put into connecting you with the biggest visionaries, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Toronto by leaving a 5-star review. Join us for more next episode from Toronto's most active entrepreneur and startup community on Startup Talk.